Hello, Yellow Jacket fans, and welcome to a new edition, a summer edition of Tech Talks presented by EGP Document Solutions. I'm your voice of the Yellow Jackets, Andy Demetra. And who better to start us off on this edition of Tech Talks than the man who this past week was named to the battle for the 2024 College Football Hall of Fame, our own defensive line coach, Marco Coleman. Marco, first off, congratulations. I got two questions for you. What was your reaction when you learned you were on the ballot, and what was your players' reaction when they learned their coach was on the ballot?
Well, of course, it's always an honor, to be recognized amongst, so many great college football players. So it's always exciting and humbling at the same time. And also my guys, it kind of, we talk about, I don't talk about it much, but they know I played here. And then, that kind of brings a little validity to what I was able to do when I'm barking at them, and I tell them, hey, man, I know what it feels like. So, that helps in that, and they're all excited and wondering how can they help me win, how can they help me, get inducted. So a lot of support.
I know you don't like talking so much about your time at Georgia Tech, so I'll do that for you. Two-time first-team All-ACC. You're an All-American, 27.5 career sacks, 50 TFLs, which you did in 3 years. At the time, it was the most in a 3-year span by anybody in ACC history. Now that you're on the other side as a coach, I want to go back 3 decades to when you were a player at the Flats, the coaching that you received at Georgia Tech, and how instrumental that was in tapping into the best version of Marco Coleman.
I mean, I was very, very fortunate to come into a situation, coaches that were very, very knowledgeable about football, but also that cared about the young men. I mean, to take the time to there's a lot of extra work that was done, beyond. And that's one of the things I preach to my guys now is doing the unrequired. And that's one of the things I learned from that coaching staff, Coach Bobby Ross, we would have these workouts in the morning at 5 a.m. And as players, we're getting up and walking across the street to go get us a snack before practice at 5 a.m. And Coach Ross is just coming in from a run. You know what I mean? And, those things that I was able to see as a young man, the way that they lived their lives with their families, all changed the way that I thought about things, and I grew. So though I had phenomenal men, Coach Ross, Coach O'Leary, Coach Baker, who's also now on the staff, Coach Prefer, Coach Lance Thompson, all these guys were, wouldn't be able to discuss this if it weren't for those guys.
Marco Coleman, the player, was very intense, as so many opposing ACC offensive linemen and quarterbacks realize. And Marco Coleman, the defensive line coach, is still very much that same intense individual, but maybe it's packaged in a different way. How would you describe the coach that you are now teaching the next generation of defensive linemen at Tech?
Well, I'm very passionate. Football has been extremely good to me. I'm not here without having this opportunity. It creates so many opportunities. So I guess I'm so passionate because of, what it's done for me. And I want the same thing for those guys, whether it's on the field or off the field. And it's just my makeup. I was, I only have once, it was only one or two ways to go. You either go all out or you don't do it at all. And that's the only way that I know how to do things, the way I've been taught, the way I was brought up. And that's the same in coaching. I got, if I'm gonna go hard, if I'm gonna do it, I got to do it, got to give it my best shot. And so every day I come out, man, regardless of how we feel, which that's something that we talk about all the time in our room, is standard over feelings. You have to have a level of way you do things, regardless of how you feel. And being able to sustain a 14-year career in the NFL, that's how I was able to do it. Because I tell the guys, I said, man, I wish I could tell them that I felt like coming to practice every day. I felt like going to work out every day, but that's not the reality of it. But you set a standard for yourself and you continuously work that way. So that way, irregardless of how you feel, life happens, what's going on in your life, you can still maintain a certain level of the way that you do things, so because it's a lot of things out of your control. Can't worry about those, but you can control your attitude and the ways you go about your work.
On the battle for the 2024 College Football Hall of Fame, but let's briefly delve into your 14-year NFL career. I remember you told me your favorite player growing up in Ohio was Mean Joe Green of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Your first year in the league with the Miami Dolphins, who was your position coach but Mean Joe Green? What was that experience like?
Well, I was in awe, to be honest with you, at the beginning, but he quickly snapped me out of that because it was work to get done. And it was, again, it was all that I thought it would be. He was a man's man. I believe the experience of having him as my coach to start my NFL career was the foundation that allowed me to be able to have such a long career. I think Joe played maybe 12 or 13 seasons himself, but it wasn't so much about the physical aspect, but the mental part of the game that Joe really emphasized. And that was, again, having that experience. I'm not sure if I would have been able to play as long if I had someone else to help me understand how to be a pro. And that was, Joe Green, to give him, all the credit in the world of being able to help me understand what it's like to be able to get in the league, to sustain a career in the NFL.
Well, it is great to have you back on the Flats, Marco. Your second stint as a coach here at Georgia Tech, leading the defensive line. I know the guys are just beginning the next phase of their summer conditioning. You had them all through the spring. What makes you excited about this upcoming season and the position group that you're going to work with that will be every bit as disruptive this fall as the Marco Coleman, who's now a candidate for the College Football Hall of Fame?
Well, it's exciting because all the guys that are here, even though I left for a season, these are all the young men that were here before I left. They were younger, didn't have as much experience. And I think that's the thing that excites me the most, is that they all have a large amount of playing experience now. They all know what it's like. They know what to expect. They're all hungry, and they're working. Changed up a few things fundamentally wise of what they were doing last season to this one, which I think they're embracing, and they got better at it as the spring went on. But again, I'm just excited because I was a part of the recruitment of all these guys that'll be playing, the majority of them that'll be playing this season. So, I'm excited, and they are too, and they're working extremely hard. I was down there with them in the weight room, we're watching them work out, and I can see in that aspect that they are putting in the work for us to be a good disruptive defensive line.
I know you're excited, and we're excited for you. Once again, this past week, Marco Coleman named to the battle for the 2024 College Football Hall of Fame. You wreaked so much havoc at Georgia Tech. By the way, still the only Georgia Tech player who led the ACC in tackles for loss in the season. He did that in 1990, but I know they shorted you probably a few TFLs that year anyway, right?
They had to. You know how it is. You got a few haters out there that don't want to see you be successful. So
that's okay. You know what? We'll put those haters to rest and get you just up the road from Bobby Dodd Stadium in the College Football Hall of Fame on the battle for 2024. But of course, before that, we will see you on the sidelines this fall on the Flats. Marco, thanks so much for joining us for Tech Talks presented by EGP Document Solutions.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Andy.